In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, November 17th. President Yoon Suk-yeol proposes a smart mobility initiative to ease carbon footprints during the first session of the APEC summit on Thursday. He also managed to partake in a brief trilateral exchange with his US host and Japanese counterpart. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, Israeli authorities have shared new disturbing discoveries that reportedly cement their earlier claims of Hamas using Gaza's largest medical center as a cover for its brutal militant activities. And amid concerns here of a high inflation, the International Monetary Fund believes Korea's consumer prices are on track to slowing down to the government's target of 2% by the end of next year. We start in San Francisco, where face-to-face diplomacy is underway to offer global leaders within the APEC framework the chance to unite under their common economic interests. That being said, President Yoon Suk-yeol managed to engage in a short trilateral interaction with his Japanese counterpart and US host Thursday afternoon. Our senior presidential correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
The leaders of South Korea, the United States and Japan stood shoulder to shoulder in San Francisco, demonstrating their confidence in their trilateral cooperation, with Seoul and Tokyo's bilateral channels 100% restored, according to President Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon on Thursday briefly met President Joe Biden and Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, while posing together for a standalone photo session. That marked the first time the leaders met in person in 3 months since their Camp David summit in August. A Seoul presidential official told reporters that the leaders held private talks for about 10 minutes, sharing optimism on the progress of their trilateral cooperation. Yoon and Biden also held a separate conversation discussing their domestic politics, economies and employment conditions.
The frequent gathering of the three leaders reinforced the spirit of their Camp David agreements, which aim to bolster the rules-based international order and together enhance regional security and prosperity based on their shared values of freedom, human rights and rule of law.
The three leaders held a similar impromptu meeting during the G7 Hiroshima summit in May, after the Korean and Japanese leaders had restored their so-called shuttle exchange of visits to Seoul and Tokyo to improve bilateral ties over long-standing historical issues, including Japan's wartime forced labor and sexual enslavement of Koreans. On Thursday, Yoon and Kishida held a separate summit in San Francisco for about 35 minutes, agreeing to further enhance their bilateral exchanges between youth and cooperation on global issues such as North Korea's security threat, the war in Ukraine, and the development of the global south.
올해 정상을 비롯한 각계 각급에서 교류가 활성화되고 정부 간 협의체가 복원돼서 양국 간 협력이 심화되고 있습니다. 상반기 안보정책협의회 경제안보 대화에 이어서 지난달 외교 차관 전략 대화까지 재개되면서 지난 3월 방일시 합의한 모든 정부 간 협의체가 이제 100% 복원이 됐습니다.
Noting they had met for the 7th time this year, Prime Minister Kishida said he felt reassured that Seoul and Tokyo were working closely together amid the rapidly changing geopolitical dynamics.
We have been initiating bilateral cooperation in diverse fields, including political relations, security, economy and culture. I hope to further develop this course of cooperation.
As the geopolitical rivalry between the US and China raises concern in the Indo-Pacific, South Korea has been aiming to revive a trilateral summit with Japan and China within the year to promote regional peace and cooperation. A Yoon official said a separate bilateral meeting at APEC between Yoon and Xi Jinping has not been confirmed, but is under discussion, after the two leaders held a brief conversation of about 3 to 4 minutes on Thursday, meeting for the first time in person since the G20 summit in Indonesia last year. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, San Francisco.
Staying in San Francisco, President Yoon Suk-yeol proposed a smart mobility initiative to ease carbon footprints during the first session of the APEC summit earlier on Thursday. He asserted that Korea is the perfect candidate to lead this initiative, given its expertise in eco-friendly as well as autonomous vehicles and intelligent transportation. He also made note of the reality that APEC's climate center is located in South Korea's southern port city of Busan. With regard to sideline summits, President Yoon attended the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, during which members finalized 2 more initiative pillars, including cooperation on clean energy and anti-corruption measures. With the supply chain deal already sealed, trade cooperation remains the only pillar that needs to be agreed upon. And tailored deterrence was the gist of the latest security consultative meeting between defense authorities here in Seoul and from Washington. Now, this is according to Mark Carlin, U.S. Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, on Thursday. Indeed, during the annual bilateral defense talks earlier this week here in South Korea, Defense Minister Shin Won-sik and his U.S. counterpart Lloyd Austin agreed to update their tailored deterrence strategy for the first time in a decade to better counter North Korea's nuclear and missile ambitions. And North Korea has responded fiercely to the latest security efforts by South Korean and U.S. defense authorities. Our correspondent Choi Min-jung covers the hardline rhetoric from across the border.
North Korea has warned it will take more visible and strategic military action in protest of the recent security talks between the defense chiefs of Seoul and Washington. In a statement on Thursday, the regime's defense ministry claimed that during the annual security consultative meeting held between the allies earlier this week, South Korea and the U.S. have shown that they're aiming for an armed invasion of North Korea. At the SCM, Seoul and Washington updated their tailored deterrence strategy for the first time in 10 years, an agreement established for tailored deterrence against North Korean nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. In response to the North's threat, Seoul's Unification Ministry defended the revision, saying it is a self-defensive measure to better counter North Korea's nuclear and missile provocations. North Korea appears to be attempting to use Seoul and Washington's bilateral security talks as an excuse to launch major provocations in the near future. This comes as the North reportedly conducted successful tests of its newly developed solid fuel engines for a new type of intermediate-range ballistic missile. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff says a test launch of an IRBM is highly likely.
The development of a solid fuel intermediate-range ballistic missile seems to be a measure to secure strike capabilities, targeting the UN Command's rear bases and the U.S. military bases in Guam and Japan, as well as to block U.S. reinforcements and UNC support to the Korean Peninsula. It seems highly likely that actual test launches will take place.
Pyongyang is also widely anticipated to carry out its third attempt at launching a military spy satellite around November 18th, which marks its Missile Industry Day. The JCS says it is closely monitoring North Korea's activities with the U.S. intelligence authorities. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, Israeli military officials say they've made more disturbing discoveries at Gaza's largest medical center to further cement their claims that Hamas is using the hospital as a cover. Our Lee Soo-jin has details.
The Israel Defense Forces has said that it has found the body of an Israeli hostage in a tunnel shaft at the Al-Shifa hospital complex in Gaza City. According to the IDF on Thursday local time, the Israeli military discovered the body of Yudit Weiss in a structure near Al-Shifa hospital.
The body of Yudit, may her soul rest in peace, was recovered by our forces, the 7th Brigade, which was scanning the area by the Al-Shifa hospital. We recovered her body in one of the homes during the scanning. Near her body, we found bodies of terrorists who were holding Yudit.
The 65-year-old woman was kidnapped by Hamas militants during the raid on southern Israel on October 7, when at least 1,200 people were killed and more than 200 were abducted. Her husband was also killed in the Hamas attack. The IDF also said that it had uncovered an entrance to a Hamas tunnel at the hospital, revealing videos and photographs of the tunnel shaft and weapons. It also said that a Hamas pickup truck similar to those used in the October 7 attacks was discovered carrying weapons near the tunnel entrance. This comes after Israeli troops raided the hospital Wednesday morning, searching the buildings and interrogating some people there. They say that Hamas has a military command center underneath the hospital. Israel's defense minister also supported this claim, saying the IDF's recent findings signal that there is significant underground infrastructure in the area.
I arrived today at the headquarters of the division, whose special forces also operate inside Al-Shifa hospital. There are significant findings there. The operation continues, and it is done in a precise, selective, but very, very determined manner.
He did not specify what the significant findings were. The defense minister added that the IDF has taken control of the western part of Gaza City and that the army has now moved on to the next phase of its ground operation. 이수진, Arirang News.
Global oil prices tumbled to a 4-month low on Thursday amid eased demand. In New York, West Texas Intermediate crude dropped almost 5% to close at $72.90 a barrel. Over in London, Brent crude fell 4.6% to settle at $77.42 a barrel. Both benchmarks hit their lowest levels since early July. Pundits, meanwhile, are linking Thursday's plunge to a surge in inventories and an overall economic slowdown. Back on the local front, Korea's inflation will slow down to the government's target range of 2% by late 2024. Now, this is among the latest projections, that is, by the IMF regarding the country's economy. Our Moon Hye-ryan reports.
The International Monetary Fund's latest report has predicted that the country will reach its 2% inflation target by the end of next year. Following an annual meeting between the IMF and South Korea's Finance Ministry, Central Bank and other institutions back in September, a report detailing the agency's economic outlook as well as policy guidelines was released on Friday. Its economic growth outlook for this year is in line with the Bank of Korea's forecast of 1.4%, as the economy is expected to make a gradual recovery thanks to rising semiconductor exports and increased tourism. The country logged a rise in memory chip exports for the first time in 16 months in October. As for the IMF's growth projection for 2024, it maintained its forecast of 2.2% from October, down 0.2 percentage points from its forecast in July due to the continued slowdown in the manufacturing sector. Meanwhile, inflation is expected to keep slowing, reaching 3.6% this year and 2.4% next year, before reaching the country's inflation target of 2% by the end of 2024. This is a hike of 0.2 percentage points for 2023 and 0.1 percentage points for 2024 from its forecast in October. The IMF recommended keeping interest rates high for a considerable period in order to stabilize prices. It also evaluated South Korea's current monetary policy as being appropriate, as the BOK kept its benchmark interest rate unchanged last month. The country's foreign exchange reserves were analyzed as being sufficiently capable of responding to external shocks. Another policy recommendation made was the need for structural reforms to the labor market to provide more flexibility in Korea's labor market and narrow the gender gap in the workforce. With South Korea's aging population, the IMF said that pension reforms were needed to address high elderly poverty rates and maintain fiscal soundness. Bolder policies to respond to climate change were also cited as being needed in order to meet the government's greenhouse gas reduction goal for 2030. Moon Hye-ryan, Arirang News.
And exports of manufactured goods have rebounded on year. Now, this is according to Seoul's Finance Ministry in its latest Green Book released on this Friday, in which it linked the rebound to an annual improvement of almost 13% in the chip-making industry. Korea also noted its largest employment expansion in October since May last year. Despite the favorable figures, the ministry has called for caution amid the ongoing conflict over in the Middle East and its potential impact on global oil prices and ultimately consumer prices. Korea is currently hosting its largest annual sale event, and our business correspondent Shin Ha-young was out and about to gauge consumer sentiment and pundit assessment. To take a listen.
South Korea's largest annual shopping festival, the Korea Sale Festa, is back again this year on a larger scale and for a longer period.
About 2,500 companies are taking part in the Korea Sale Festa, the most ever. And this year's event has also been extended from 15 to 20 days to ensure that people can take advantage of lower prices.
Marking its 9th year, there are discounts on a wide range of items from food and fashion to automobiles. Large supermarkets are offering up to a 50% discount and buy one get one free promotions on fresh produce, processed food, household goods, and more. With the kimchi making season underway, there have been discounts on kimchi making ingredients too. Hyundai Motor is offering discounts of up to 6 million won or around $4,500 on electric cars, while Kia Motors is offering discounts of up to 7 million won. LG Electronics has included 17 popular items such as dryers, dishwashers, and steam closets in the promotion, while Samsung Electronics has 16 items on discount, including TVs. Also, major cinemas are taking part for the first time, offering a 3,000 won discount on movie tickets.
It's great that there are a variety of discounted items, but it'd be even better if there were bigger discounts on daily necessities.
I use social media a lot, but I didn't know about this event. With prices going up these days, I hope there are good deals on kitchenware and bedding, especially for single-person households.
The government plans to stimulate consumer sentiment through the large-scale discount event. Private spending in the third quarter only rose by 0.3% compared to the previous quarter. Considering the decline in the second quarter, the domestic market is still relatively sluggish. However, experts say that the boost to consumer spending could be limited as the level of discounts is relatively lower than what's offered on China's Singles' Day and Black Friday in the U.S.
On Black Friday, manufacturers are the ones that cut prices, resulting in big discounts. But in Korea, unless manufacturers lower prices, relying solely on discounts from retailers may have limitations in encouraging consumers to open their wallets.
She added that the government should offer incentives to both retailers and manufacturers so that consumers can buy heavily discounted products. 신하영, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, on the football field, Team Korea beat Singapore 5-0 Thursday night here in Seoul, kicking off a great start to its qualification matches for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Our Lee Seung-jae has a recap.
The South Korean national football team hammered Singapore 5-0 on Thursday night at the Seoul World Cup Stadium to begin its qualification journey to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. 5 different Taeguk warriors scored on the night, including Jo Kyu-sung, who netted the first goal of the match just before the end of the first half. A few minutes after the restart, Jo provided the assist for Wolverhampton striker Hwang Hee-chan's header for a 2-0 lead. South Korea's captain and Tottenham Hotspur striker Son Heung-min also got on the score sheet with a left foot strike in the 63rd minute before Hwang Hee-jo scored from the penalty spot just 5 minutes later. PSG midfielder Lee Gang-in also got in on the action of scoring for South Korea, scoring in the 85th minute, his 3rd consecutive international goal to close out the convincing 5-0 win. With their first win under their belt, South Korea will now travel to Shenzhen to play China next Tuesday for the final World Cup qualifying match of 2023. The remaining Group C matches include a home and away series against Thailand in March 2024. The Taeguk Warriors will try to extend their World Cup appearance streak to 11, having competed at every World Cup since 1986. The 2026 World Cup will be co-hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and will be the first edition to feature 48 nations, up from the current 32-team format. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The official guidebooks to the Vatican museums now include a Korean version, which was published earlier this week. This is according to the Korean Embassy in the Vatican on Thursday. The publication is part of a project to commemorate 60 years of diplomatic relations between Korea and the Vatican. The guidebook is available at bookstores within the Vatican museums. In 2021, the embassy enhanced the Vatican Museum's Korean audio guide, but no official guidebook in Korean has been available until now. The Vatican Museums trace 500 years of related history and feature a total of 70,000 works of art.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In Spain, Socialist Party leader Pedro Sánchez won a parliamentary vote on Thursday, giving him a second term as Spain's Prime Minister. Spain's Conservative Popular Party won the most seats in July's general election, but was unable to form a majority coalition. However, Sánchez secured a 4-seat majority to win 179 out of the 350-seat chamber. The Prime Minister offered an amnesty deal to Catalan separatists to secure votes from the two Catalan pro-independence parties, which ultimately led to his victory in the parliament. While Sanchez told MPs that the amnesty deal would help heal wounds, Spain has seen mass protests against the measure, with polls revealing over 70% of Spaniards are against it. The amnesty protects hundreds of people who have already been penalized or face prosecution for an illegal push for independence for the Catalan region in 2017, and also covers the period from January 1st, 2012 to November 13th of this year. The UK's new Foreign Secretary, David Cameron, got straight down to business as he made his first official working visit to Ukraine. He met with President Volodymyr Zelensky and the country's foreign minister in Kiev on Thursday. While Cameron pledged to continue Britain's long-term support for Ukraine in the meeting, there is no significant announcement on additional military or humanitarian aid. The UK spent some $2.9 billion in 2022 on the defense of Ukraine in its war against Russia, with the same amount pledged for 2023. Whether that level of support will continue will be revealed next Wednesday when Britain's Chancellor of Exchequer makes his autumn statement. Cambodia on Thursday inaugurated its newest and biggest airport, the Siem Reap Angkor International Airport. The international airport, which began operations on October 16th, is located about 40 kilometers east of Angkor Wat and can handle 7 million passengers a year, with plans to increase the capacity to up to 12 million from 2040. The $1.1 billion Chinese-financed airport, which replaces the old airport in the region, aims to increase access to the country's main tourist attraction, the Angkor Wat Temple Complex in Siem Reap. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet, as well as the Chinese ambassador to Cambodia and the governor of China's Yunnan province, were at Thursday's ceremony. Aquaculture is one of the most rapidly growing food sectors, with more people now eating farmed fish than fish caught in the wild. While there are concerns about whether farm-grown fish are safe considering the difference between ecosystems, companies like Atlantic Sapphire have adapted technology to minimize the harm done to the fish and maximize production. In their salmon farming warehouse near Miami, indoor tanks are set at the right temperature, salinity, and lighting to mimic the natural environment. Damien Clare, Atlantic Sapphire's chief marketing officer, says that their technology lowered the mortality rate of the fish to around 3% compared to the industry average of 20%. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It feels like we are 2 months ahead of the time, temperature-wise. A sharp wind is making it colder, and highs in Seoul should only go up to 3 degrees this afternoon. And it seems like we'll have to wait till Sunday afternoon to see some relief from this strong cold snap. We had sunny skies to start the day, then it will get murky with precipitation nationwide. Seoul could see the first snow of this season, while mountainous regions in Jeju could see up to 15 centimeters of snow, and the rest of the country could see 1 to 5 centimeters of snowfall during the day, or 5 to 20 millimeters of rain in most places. Those of us in the upper parts of the country need to stay covered all day today. Chuncheon tops out at 4 degrees, Daejeon at 7 degrees this afternoon. But at least southern provinces should have highs in the teens this afternoon. Looking ahead, we'll finally get some time to say farewell to the autumn before winter air moves in at the end of next week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Right, and that ends this week's editions of the Daily Report. Thank you for watching, but do stay with us for our panel session coming up in a few minutes.